Sydney Road derby between Coburg and Brunswick. And looking at the positions on the ladder, you'll see Coburg, reigning premiers, up there on top. Brunswick in fourth.
Here we are at Gillon, one of the great administrators of the VFA for decades. Now, Brunswick Footy Club, a little bit like Coburg Footy Club, it's in the back blocks. It's a weird little ground to get to. You've got a little laneway that you have to go through. Doesn't get a much better backdrop than this Brunswick football ground. The palm tree, the old famous grandstand, and then we've just got the little bonus little grandstand to the right of that, which I think used to be called the Cricketers Grandstand. Actually, there used to be original grandstand before there that caught fire, and we've got the old timekeeper's box. One of the great underutilised grounds in Melbourne, Brunswick Cricket Ground. Hasn't been used for a very long time in the VFA, and obviously up there in the grandstand, which we'll get to, it's all cyclone fenced off, so it's been protected for probably 30 years now. Let's go in and have a look. Now, as I mentioned, this ground has actually had this cyclone fence here since the late 80s, early 90s, which I think is an absolutely fantastic thing, because it's probably protected this ground tremendously. They opened it up on match day, which is absolutely fantastic. But let's go up and have a look at the Glen stand at Gillon Oval. Here's the foundation stone. I'll just zoom in on it. So this grandstand was built in 1925. So similar era to when the Port Melbourne and Coburg grandstands were built. But I tell you what, this one's a very different architecture to those two. And it's probably very bold compared to those other two grounds, which are very traditional. Let's go up and have a look at the Glen stand at Brunswick Cricket Ground, Gillon Oval. It's safe to say this grandstand isn't home to squatters, which is absolutely fantastic, but I'll tell you what, it's been home to pigeons, that's for sure. Pigeons look like they've called this place home of recent. Great to see all the old wooden stands still here. It's great to see all the old seats. It's probably got a lot of the charm from when it originally was a VFA ground back in the late 80s, early 90s, when Brunswick ended their time in the VFA, unfortunately, when they merged with Broadmeadows, which didn't work out. Probably wasn't the greatest idea to begin with, to be honest. Now here's a little pan of Gillon Oval. One of the absolute beautiful grounds. Love this place. One of the first times I've been up here in the grandstand since a young fella as well, so brings back some really good memories. The architecture in the roof is very unique as well. A lot different to what some of the modern grandstands are like, and probably a little bit similar to them 1920s grandstands with that very ornate wood and unique architecture style. But yeah, great to see this grandstand. It's almost like a time capsule, to be honest. Something like that you would have probably seen back in the old days with the old wooden seats. Not many grounds have still got wooden seats, so really fantastic this. Well done to the cricket club and the footy clubs for preserving this, making sure no one gets up here and really keeping it a bit of a time capsule. Now here's the rabbit warren in the Glen stand at Brunswick Gillon Oval. Reminds me a little bit of Williamstown. Their ground used to have this little like runway along it before it got. And here's the Brunswick rooms. These are the home rooms for the football club. As you can see, they've got purple lockers. I'd say these are the original lockers from when the VFA club was here. So this would have been the Brunswick VFA home rooms. This is the back of the Cricketers Grandstand at Gillon Oval. Great to see the old sign now. That sign's probably been there since at least the late 80s when Brunswick were here in the VFA. Brunswick Sports Club's still operating, which is great to see. And it's great to see that this sign has lasted the test of time. Let's go in and have a look at the Cricketers stand. Been to a lot of footy grounds and cricket grounds in my time, and I'll tell you what, this one is one of the most impressive. All the old cricket stuff still exists, which is absolutely great to see. This was a proud cricket club, and it still is. All the cricket traditions still on the walls of this once proud cricket club, who still continue on today. This obviously was the social rooms for the Brunswick Football Club as well, who played in the VFA. And all their history would have been in here as well, I'm sure. Some of it is still around, and they had a reunion last year, and there were a lot of memorabilia at that ground as well at that day. There's a nice little sign, so it's great to see the Brunswick Cricket Club, the Magpies, like the football club used to be. But here's some of the great history in this Cricketers stand at Brunswick Gillon Oval. Here's the steps up to the second grandstand at Gillon Oval. We'll go up there and have a look. And here's the top of the cricketers' grandstand at Gillon Oval. This used to be full of seats back in the day, all old wooden ones, but it's great to see it still lives on. It's had a bit of a refurb of recent. This was the second grandstand at Gillon Oval, and it's still obviously used for cricket today. So as you can see, here's a little pan of the ground. We've got a cricket game on today, which is great to see. And here's a little, little shot of what is at the top of this grandstand, which if you've never been here on match day, you probably wouldn't even know what's up here. So little bonus. And here's the back of the grandstand at Gillon Oval in Brunswick. Always had a decent car park. It's always of a good size. And here's a couple of signs of who the tenants are. Obviously, North Boys, St Patrick's, Brunswick Amateur Football Club, who are now named Brunswick Footy Club, when they wear the purple, and obviously the Brunswick Cricket Club are still tenants of this ground today. Back of the grandstand at Brunswick. I'll tell you what, it's a very big ground, a very big grandstand. It's probably up there with some of the big grandstands in the VFA. Very, very spacious in there. I reckon this would have held at least 1,000 people when it was full. And it would have been full for a lot of games. Probably the last time I reckon this would have got chockers was when Mark Jackson played here for Brunswick in the mid-80s. I think it was against Sandringham. They absolutely packed the place out. But yeah, big grandstand at Brunswick. Here's the side of the Glen grandstand at Gillon Oval. As you can see, it's an absolute monster. Big grandstand, and obviously the second grandstand over there, and the timekeeper's box as well. And here we are at Gillon Oval, behind the goals at the eastern end of the ground. Now, one of our great followers at VFL Rewanting, Frank Lesaputty, tells a great story of how he grew up with his back fence onto Gillon Oval. Now, I can only assume that Frankie potentially grew up in one of these houses here, or he grew up on the western side of the ground, which is over there. But I'll tell you what, imagine having this as your backyard, just jump the back fence and kick footies and have a great grandstand like that as a backdrop. Now, over there on the northern end of the ground, there used to actually be fencing, and there used to be, I think, a ticket box you could get in from the northern side of the ground. Now, obviously, it's been opened up, as they do with a lot of these footy grounds, to make it public. But back in the day, this would have been all locked up. You wouldn't have been able to get in here on match day. You would have had to go through a gate or a fence. So that would have all been fenced off back in the day. And over there, we'll get to the scoreboard. Now, I want to do a little bit of a chat on the scoreboard. Now, Brunswick was innovators in the scoreboard. So we'll get over to the western end of the ground and chat about the scoreboard. Now, I reckon I might be right, but I reckon the scoreboard was actually here on the eastern end of the ground on this hill here. I reckon originally, all our followers, please let me know. From the photos I've seen, I reckon it might have been here, but obviously they moved the scoreboard over here. Now, the reason I want to chat about the scoreboard, and you can probably picture it being here somewhere if I am correct, it was the first scoreboard outside of the AFL or /VFL, as originally was known then, to be digital. So it had a lot of globes in it, and they were all obviously lit up. I think the council pumped in a bit of money back in the 80s or the 70s it might have been to build it, and it was fantastic. There's some great pictures in Sano Caruso's Sporting Grounds in Melbourne book on the scoreboard. And I used to have a lot of faults though, because all the globes used to blow up, as you remember probably growing up. All them globes, once they're blown, their stuff, so you got to get a new one. So they did have a lot of problems with it. Now, while I'm on this side of the ground, I just want to mention this outer is absolutely huge. This would have been terraced or at least hill banked, I'd say, and at capacity, this would have been one of the bigger grounds in the VFA, I think. The ends at either end are pretty massive, and this outer wing here is monstrous compared to some of the other grounds in the VFA. So let us know what it used to look like back when you were growing up. Now, as you can see, I'm walking up to the middle part of the ground. Now, I would be safe to guess that there were gates here at some point back in the day to get into the ground. So there would have been probably turnstiles or at least a gate here at the northern end of the ground, and you'd waltz in here into Gillon Oval. Here's what the outer wing used to look like at Gillon Oval, with just a ticket box and cyclone. Here's a picture of the scoreboard at Brunswick. As you can see, it's like individual light globes for every single one of those. So I'm guessing it's probably close to 100, 150, 200 light globes that light up every one of them little spots. So I can understand why so many globes blew. Would have been constantly getting hot in there, especially for the single goal kickers and that. So there's a little quirk. First scoreboard outside of Waverley Park to be operated powerly. So great little... Now here's the western end at Gillon Oval, Brunswick. All the old bluestone over there is obviously original from when it was there. That was all terraced as well. Now, the reason I'm over this side is I want to talk about the scoreboard now. The scoreboard here, obviously, as I mentioned in the video before, was on the other side, but they've got a new scoreboard here, which they've put on the western end of the ground. Real modern one, which is great to see. And obviously, they've got the cricket wickets here as well, which I'm pretty sure we're always in this original spot all the way through. Now, this end of the ground is where Mark Jacko Jackson went absolutely ballistic against Sandringham, and I think kicked 4 or 5 goals. This part of the ground was absolutely chock-a-block. I think they had near 10,000 people here. They were absolutely crammed in. It's probably the last time they had a monster crowd here, but just want to mention this part of the ground, they're pretty dead pockets. So the outer wing, it's very wide out on the outer wing, but the pockets are pretty narrow, and they probably may have been reduced a little bit because of the cricket wicket, but it's an absolute ripper ground this. Let's go out and check out the timekeeper's box. Here's the original timekeeper's box, and I think it might have also been the canteen as well back in the day. Now, this is where you'd line up at Brunswick to get your hot dog or chips or whatever you'd get, and we'll have to find out what Brunswick what their cult figure item was. Obviously, a lot of clubs had their famous items, the Borough Burger, the Willy Dog down at Williamstown, but this is where you'd line up at Gillon Oval, Brunswick, to get your food at the canteen. I think they just had one canteen here, and great to see the timekeeper's box still standing after all these years. Side-on view of the cricketers' stand at Gillon Oval in Brunswick. Great to see the Brunswick Community Sports Club signs on the fence, which is obviously the cricket club and the footy club, I think, combined. But yeah, I will try and share a picture of this, of what the original little grandstand that used to be here. I think it might have burnt down. What it used to look like, it was very ornate, similar to what Northcote had in the VFA. I'll try and find a video of that and chuck it in. But yeah, this was built, I think, maybe in the 70s, I reckon. It was a late addition to the ground. Here's a picture of the grandstand before it burnt down in 1975. As you can see, it was a nice little cool grandstand. Video. I also wanted to mention this train station you would have got in to get to the ground back in the day. So Brunswick Station is how you would have got to Gillon Oval, Brunswick Cricket Ground. And it'd probably be about a short half K walk up to the ground from Brunswick Station. And here's for some of the train enthusiasts, all the old levers at the Brunswick train station. The old room where the gates used to be are still here. And yeah, this is how you get to Brunswick Cricket Ground if you were catching the train back in the day. And there you have it, Gillon Oval in Brunswick. Probably one of the great grounds of Melbourne that you've probably never seen or heard or been to. But I'll tell you what, it's an absolute gem. Not far from the city. One of the great grounds. Surprised an AFL club never tried to pinch this to make it its home ground when they were on the move. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Continue to give us a follow and check out all our other videos of explore grounds all around Melbourne and try and share a bit of the history of these great old footy grounds.